Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. I'm Heather and this is The Happenings with H.A.P. Another video. It's crazy, I know. Don't mind the lip. It's very extreme. I am testing it out and I figured since it has an orangey tone, blue would probably be a good contrast. I'll find out later when I'm editing if that was a good choice or not. But today's video, we are going to get a little spicy, hence the spicy lip. And that is because today's video is going to be my 5 bottom reads of 2021. These are the 5 books that were my lowest rated, though I will say this year it was kind of harder to pick that out. This is a bit of a pro and a con because some of these books I didn't rate that low, but I had to go through and pick my lowest rated. So some of them are rated pretty low, but some of them are kind of in the average to a little above average. So these are going to be some hot takes because I know that some of these books are some people's favorite books on BookTube. So again, everyone's reads are different. You can watch my video from last year, which was also very spicy. I will say I have none of these books were like terribly written or didn't have interesting plots. Otherwise I wouldn't have read them in the first place. They just were not for my personal reading styles, or there were parts of the book that I just didn't like so much that it just affected my reading. You can definitely disagree with me on these, and I'm sure you will. And it's the joy of reading and consuming entertainment because we all have different opinions and there's always something for everybody. And I really appreciate that. So I'm going to start from the highest rated to the lowest rated. So the books at the end are going to be my really spicy takes. And yeah, let's get into it. My bottom reads of 2021. Okay, right out the gate, we're going to do probably one of my hotter takes on here, and that is Lovely War by Julie Berry. I gave this one a 3.5 stars. You're probably wondering, Heather, 3.5 stars. Why is this even on this list? Glad you asked. I had a lot of books that I gave a 3.5 stars this year. Actually, that was pretty much my average rating for 2021. But the amount of hype to disappointment ratio that I got from this book is what landed it on this list. Like I said, there were other ones I was disappointed in, but I was more disappointed in this one because this had both historical fiction, World War I historical fiction as well, which is more rare than World War II. And it also had gods in it and mythology, and I love that. 2 things I love. I assumed together I would really enjoy them. I did not. I read this on audiobook, and it is a full cast audiobook, which I really did enjoy. But honestly, the parts with Aphrodite and the other gods really brought this book down. I wanted to learn more about Hazel and James. I enjoyed their story. Their story wasn't anything spectacular, which is probably why there was an edition of the gods in the first place. But I still enjoyed being back in that time and kind of those characters living through that war and their relationship and all that much more than I did the drama that was going on with these gods. It was such a letdown because so many people love this book. It's like most people's like top book, I think, of 2020 was when it came out originally. So I've been waiting to read this book since it came out. It just took me that long because I was on hold at the library for that long for it. The disappointment in this was pretty big because I had been waiting like a year to read this. And unfortunately, Aphrodite was not on my side because I did not love this one. The next book on this list is also one that I was anticipating because I am a huge Phantom of the Opera fan. Like, obsessed Phantom of the Opera fan, especially when I was younger. And that is Sing Me Forgotten by Jessica S. Olson. I had high hopes for this one, a gender-bent Phantom of the Opera that involved magic and stuff like that. I wish that she would have picked a lane with this one. Either have it be a gender-bent Phantom of the Opera and literally just freaking play the story out, or have a story about this weird magical power and the weird magical beings that have this power and how they take advantage of normal people. I would have liked one or the other. Together, it just did not work for me. The main protagonist, I don't even remember her name, and main character, Isda, I think is her name. She's so dumb. It's like this could have been good, and I was disappointed in the fact that it just genuinely was not good. I had so much potential for this. I know there's a couple of different Phantom of the Opera retellings out there, and back in my day, I read a lot on fanfiction.net of really good Phantom of the Opera retellings, and this one just wasn't it. Like, it was well written. I would read another book from this author. I mean, I gave it 3 stars, so it could have been way lower. It just, the ending, which there's not supposed to be a happy ending when you're doing a Phantom of the Opera retelling, because it just can't be. It's a very much a Deus Ex Machina, and everything's kind of okay, even though not for the main characters okay, but for everyone else. If you're gonna do Phantom of the Opera, I want the angst. I want the angst really bad, and it just did not deliver on that. Like I said, I would have rather either she did a straight up retelling or dealt with the magic system that she created, because it's kind of interesting, but again, like, the rules of it kind of are a little spotty. It was a letdown, unfortunately. Yeah. This next one is going to be a really hot take, because I know a lot of people love this book, and I was super hyped for this one, and that's why it rates lower than Sing Me Forgotten, because I was on the hype train for this one big time. I was so excited to read it. I couldn't wait to read it, and that was The Conductors by Nicole. I gave this one a 3 stars. Average. And I've said it in my recent reads, my spring summer recent reads video. I can't pinpoint exactly why I didn't like this as much as I hoped I would. It still is like kind of baffling to me of like, why didn't I like this? Conductors on the Underground Railroad that also have magic. The magic is very grounded and makes sense and all of that. But just like, I think because nothing really happens plot wise, it does kind of go back and forth between like the present day in Philadelphia to when these characters escaped and how they met each other. These characters didn't necessarily fall in love at the time, but got married out of convenience and the love grew. So like, it's not even like a romance, which is actually very, very interesting because it actually relates to the time period a lot. But it just, I don't know, nothing really happens. There is this like plot point that's going through where they're trying to investigate a death, because that's what they do now that the emancipation has happened, but it's just boring. I really wanted to like this, and I know that there's a sequel, and I can't remember, I think it's already out or it's going to be coming out soon, but it's like not really on my radar now because I just was so disappointed in this, and it was like, it was a real slog to read through, and I was so disappointed because I really thought I was gonna love it because it had historical fiction, it had magic, it had really interesting characters, and the characters are interesting. Hetty is an awesome character. The characterizations were great, and her relationship with Benjamin is really great. And I don't know if my opinion of this was skewed by the audiobook, and it wasn't a bad audiobook either, but maybe this was one I really needed to actually sit and read because I absorb a bit differently when I sit and read, and I don't know, maybe that was part of it. I will say if this is adapted to the screen, I would definitely see it because I feel like it would be very interesting adaptation. I do hope that that happens because it was very well written. Like I said, I enjoyed the writing. It wasn't the writing at all. It's just, I'm still like scratching my head over just why it was so subpar to me. But again, I gave it 3 stars, so it's not terrible. It was just kind of average, but I was like, as I was reading it, I was waiting for it to be done, if I'm being honest. And like I said, I'm not sure if I'm gonna read the sequel. I would read other books she's written just in case it just might be this story I'm just not feeling. Yeah, again, super disappointed because I was really looking forward to this one and had actually recommended it to people too because it was on one of my want to read lists for 2021. So that's kind of how that goes, I guess, sometimes. Now we're going to get into the more lower rated ones that probably make more sense why I rated them a bit lower. The first one is This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. This is a novella and it is very poetic. It is prose, but it's poetic prose. Try as I might with different writers, I can't always get into that type of writing, and I couldn't get into this one. Granted, when I saw the recommendation for it, the booktuber, which was Haley in Bookland, did say that it is very much more like poetry and that in sci-fi it might not be everyone's cup of tea, and she's right. I really wanted to know these characters more. I wanted to know the world. I wanted to know what this war was about. I explained in my recent reads from spring summer 2021 that I felt like I kind of had blinders on when I was reading it because like I could see like kind of what's in front of me with these characters but not what's around me, which I mean that's what they were going for. It is a novella. It is written poetically for a reason. They were going for a specific type of storytelling and I totally respect that. This is just not the work for me. So while I gave it 2.5 stars, which is low, it is specifically not because it was written badly or or I thought the idea was dumb or anything like that. It's not the book for me, unfortunately. Would I read something by these writers again? It would depend on how it's written, if it is more poetic. I keep trying, and then I feel really bad when I give low ratings to books like these because I didn't go into this thinking I wouldn't like it. I hoped I would, but then as I was reading it, and it was just kind of like, oh, I kind of made a mistake. And I am very much one that does not DNF. I will set aside, I will not DNF. So the fact that I did finish this is a testament, but I really was just kind of like whatever about it. Luckily, it was only like 3 hours long in the audiobook form, so it was really quick to get through. And the audiobook was great. I recommend the audiobook for this. The audiobook was really well done, but it just is not the book for me, unfortunately. And now we are getting to my least favorite book of 2021. It's hands down my least favorite. We were kind of going on a list and taking the way down to hell, as it were. And this one was anticipated. It was one of my most anticipated reads for 2021. I was very excited to read this. And it is Nick by Michael Farris Smith, which is an unofficial prequel to The Great Gatsby and follows Nick Carraway in his own adventure. Or so it says. The first half of this book I really enjoyed. Nick is a World War I soldier, and we got to see him in combat and just his life as a World War I soldier and his time in France with like a love interest. I loved the first part of the book a lot. It's when he comes back to America and goes to New Orleans, that's where the book starts to go down, because again, suddenly it doesn't become a story about him anymore. It becomes about these other fucked up people. And he already has an entire book of fucked up people that he's going to meet after the events of this book. This is supposed to be his story, and yet in the second half it's a backseat to his own story. I was so disappointed because I wanted to get to know more about this character, because he is like a beloved narrator in American fiction. Pretty much everyone that's gone through the American schooling system has read The Great Gatsby. Everyone knows his character, but you don't really know much about him at all. And I was like, yes, we finally will. And I still really don't know much about the guy. And it sucks. Like I said, the first half was great. The first half I was like, all right, this is maybe looking like a 4-star book. Great. And then he gets to New Orleans and well, it just that makes it seem like the events of The Great Gatsby. It's like, bro, you should know better. You've been through this bullshit with two people that are together that cause fucked up problems for each other. And the book does basically go into like the opening moments of The Great Gatsby. So it is literally a companion piece. You could, in theory, read this and then read The Great Gatsby right after. I was really hoping for more with this book, and I was sorely disappointed when I didn't get it. So like the hype combined with where the story went was just, I was done. I was upset. It was such a disappointment. I think I read this book in like March of 2021. The fact that I had my worst book that early in the year was really sad. Because I knew when I finished, I was like, yep, this is gonna be probably the bottom unless something else really bad comes along. But nothing really beat this one. So yeah, this was my worst book of the year. I don't know if I could really recommend it just because I feel like readers might be as annoyed as I am, but again, the first part's really interesting. If you like that time period and you want to read about it, sure. I'm just probably willing to bet that there's probably better fan fiction of Nick Carraway out there, so take that as you will. And that's it. Those are my bottom 5 books of 2021. Very disappointing. That's kind of the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. I'm sure some of these are very hot takes. And these are some of your favorite books that you've read or of the year or whatever. Let me know down below. I definitely would love to hear opinions, especially of the ones that I'm kind of more just lukewarm about and didn't like outright hate, like Nick. My next video will actually be my top 10 of 2021, which I'm sure there'll be some flips of, because I know that there's some books on there that people really didn't like either. It's great that everyone's different, but so that's the video, and I will see you guys in my next video.